A Swift Kick in the Ass, episode 12.
Welcome to a Swift Kick in the Ass podcast, hosted by lifelong friends Tom Stewart and John Curran. Today's episode is a special feature covering Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power.
Welcome, I'm Tom Stewart. I'm here joined with my lifelong friend John Curran, and today we're going to talk about Robert Greene's book, The 48 Laws of Power. We're continuing on with Law 6, which is court attention at all cost. John, you want to elaborate on the judgment?
Yeah, certainly. It reads, court attention at all cost. Everything is judged by its appearance. What is unseen counts for nothing. Never let yourself get lost in the crowd, then, or buried in oblivion. Stand out. Be conspicuous at all cost. Make yourself a magnet of attention by appearing larger, more colorful, more mysterious than the bland and timid masses. Did that sound evil enough?
Yeah, you did practice. In fact, last weekend I went to Disney World and rode the Haunted Mansion, and you kind of have that Vincent Price kind of sound to you. You know, you ride and I don't know. You know, I'm talking about the.
Yeah.
You know, he does the voice there. Right.
Please walk this way.
That's a great ride. They've updated it. I don't know if you've been there. Yeah, you were there recently, right?
Yes.
You had a chance to go onto it because they have updated it from when we were kids.
We went last May.
Cool.
It was great. I loved it.
My favorite ones are still the hitchhiking ghosts that ride on your cart.
Yeah, I love the whole ride. I could go on that ride just over and over again.
You know, and the coolest effects are really ancient effects. Not ancient, but you know, they're from like the 1800s, which is ancient enough. But it's the pepper ghost illusion where they basically just use a reflection in a piece of glass. So you're looking through at, you know, a table full of, you know, empty chairs, and underneath where you're riding are these animatronics that they light up. So when you look through the glass, you see the reflection of them, and they look transparent, but they look like ghosts. And they have them perfectly laid out, so it looks like they're sitting in the seats, blowing out the birthday candles, dancing, and it's just awesome. And in fact, I used this that same illusion one time when I was at Clear Channel Broadcasting. We went around, we recorded all the disc jockeys and the different promotions people and management and sales, giving little intros with about Halloween. And what I did is I made them wear all, you know, I had like this black cloth and I wrapped them around so you could only see their head. And then I went into editing software and I changed the colors on them and made their heads spin. I put fire on them, and then I used a pepper ghost illusion, and me and my buddies created this whole Halloween mock-up, and basically we called it the spook box. And it was this black box, and I took a TV and I put it upside down, and I had a piece of reflective glass at an angle, so you would see some like branches and stuff, but you would see this head floating. You know, it was like a hologram welcoming people to Clear Channel when they came in. It was really cool.
That sounds really cool, but my 8-year-old's going to be disappointed because she really thought that a ghost came home with her. There are two parts to courting attention at all costs. Part one is surround your name with the sensational and the scandalous. Part two is creating an air of mystery. And as I was reading this chapter, I was really thinking, gee, you know, there are a lot of times where I don't want to court attention. I want to fly below the radar. Seems like if I sought attention, I would just get into a whole mess of trouble that I don't want to get into. And you know, I'm reading the chapter thinking this, and I get to the end, and it says that this law, there's an art to it, and that sometimes you do want to fly under the radar. And sometimes you do want to pull back and blend in with everybody else. So I thought that was interesting. There are bending, it's bending the law.
Absolutely. And did you? I know you're just talking about part one. Do you want to mention there's a little judgment that went with that? Do you have that, or you want me to read it?
Oh yeah, I can do that. Surround your name with the sensational and scandalous. Draw attention to yourself by creating an unforgettable, even controversial image. Court scandal. Do anything to make yourself seem larger than life and shine more brightly than those around you. Make no distinction between kinds of attention. Notoriety of any sort will bring you power. Better to be slandered and attacked than ignored. I'm really getting this evil voice down. I like it.
I'll turn you to the dark side yet, young Padawan.
Well, when you hear the audio book, he does sound like Vincent Price, and it does sound very evil. But I think it adds a lot of weight to these words. I know in my background, I did public affairs for a few years, and during that time, it was said, any press is good press. And of course, they didn't have to put the spin on it, to put the positive spin. I had to do that. But you can always make something good out of it. And let's face it too. If you watch any TV today, you know what reality TV is, and that it's a money-making machine. Fame is a money-making machine. What other reason do these people have to be famous for except for having a reality show? That's how they're making their money, and that's how they're making even more and more money, is through that reality show. They really did nothing noteworthy outside of that show, as far as I'm aware. I know I'm kind of generalizing, but
it's a big trend right now within the internet community, and we're even an example of where we have a podcast right now. Podcasts seem to generate authority. They help you, become an authority in your specific niche. Blogs, evidently, that's the biggest, example of it, where people will, almost become experts when sometimes they're not even really experts. They're so-so, but they're the ones out there with the loudest voice and getting the attention. So, internet experts right now are saying if you want to build an audience, to build authority, you set up a blog, you maybe do a podcast, you make videos, you get your name out there, and it's really, anyone can be a publisher right now, so it's very easy to build a platform. And it's a good thing, because there's a lot of people that should be heard, then there's a lot of people that shouldn't. Hopefully we're some of the people that should be heard, but we'll let our audience decide that.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how many people are considered to be experts, and when you look at the cost of entry to become an expert, it's very low. Like you just mentioned a few examples of how you can become an expert, and if you Google it, you'll find step-by-step lists of how to go about becoming an expert. And it's not becoming a master of that field necessarily. It's really how you market yourself. Self-publishing, get an article published in a magazine or online. You use that to your favor to establish yourself as a expert.
Yeah, you see it all the time too. I used to be a member of the Hollywood Rotary Club, and we would invite so-called experts in to give certain talks, and a lot of the times they're there for self-promotion. They might be talking about a certain subject, but they're really there to promote themselves. And I knew one guy who he was a web developer, and when Facebook first came out and it started becoming popular around 2007, 2008, I think it was. But this guy was already deeming himself a social media marketing expert. And it's like, social media is relatively new. How can you be an expert in this field yet? I mean, there's not that much to it yet to be, there's no degree, there's no certification. Now there actually is, but back then there was not, and people just give themselves these titles, and I still see it. I see it in whatever new thing comes out. When Pinterest first came out, I saw people releasing all kinds of videos and tutorials, and from certified or so-called experts, when they're really all they did is they got there first. They they read how to set up a couple of pictures and promote it. And there's new things on the horizon. I think the newest one coming out is Rebel Mouse, which a lot of people probably haven't heard of, but I think in the next year or two they will.
Yeah, as I was reading through this chapter, I was thinking, as I stated before, I don't always want to court attention to myself. I think that can get me in trouble. But as I read through the chapter and kind of thought about what I was reading, it made me realize something my dad had told me a long time ago. He said, we are all salesmen. Even whether you want to call yourself a salesman or you don't, you are selling. You're selling yourself, and not like a prostitute, but I mean maybe, but if you go to a job interview and you land that job, you have sold yourself. You have sold that person who's interviewing you on the idea that you can do a good job. So we sell ourselves each and every day when we're trying. I mean, my kids are turning into great salespeople because they're coming to me constantly with they want to do this and they want to do that, and they're learning how to build their case. They're learning how to approach me, and selling their ideas. And I think that's a part of life. And the better you can do that, the more successful you'll be.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The same goes as marketing. Marketing, selling is the same thing. I've heard same thing. Everything in life really breaks down to marketing. You market yourself. You market, your profession. You market your skills. It's like you said, getting exposure for yourself, selling yourself, and it's really how you grow and compete and advance.
Yeah, and so I think this is a really natural segue to part 2, which is create an air of mystery. In a world growing increasingly banal and familiar.
Banal?
What's banal?
Banal?
Did I? Oh, banal. I call it banal. You say banal, I say
X-rated. Envelope.
You're ruining my evil voice, Tommy.
Well, how evil can you be when you say banal?
In a world growing increasingly familiar, what seems enigmatic instantly draws attention. Never make it too clear what you are doing or about to do. Do not show all of your cards. An air of mystery heightens your presence. It also creates anticipation. Everyone will be watching you to see what happens next. Use mystery to beguile, seduce, and even frighten. And, I remember something else my dad told me. He told me a lot of stuff as I was growing up, but he said, people only know what you tell them. And if you are trying to, if I think that's true. Whether if you're trying to get something done, depending on how open you can be, people will stand in your way. So people only know what you tell them, and no one is a mind reader. So it is really true. They only know what you tell them. So don't be an open book. And as I was thinking about that, about not being an open book, I was thinking, you know what? People put down books when they're not interesting and when they're predictable. So if people aren't, paying attention to you or reading your book, you're going to end up dusty on a shelf. You're going to end up in a garage sale or donated to charity because no one wants to read you. So I think that kind of dovetails perfectly with bringing attention to yourself. There's a line and there's an art to it, but sometimes it's good to, it is good to get paid attention. And if no one's paying attention to you, that's probably not a good thing.
Observance of the law.
Like my accent again?
I do. It gets better every week.
One of the observance of the law is one of the little chapters or little sub-chapters inside each law. This one thing that we skipped over was what seemed to me like the origin story for P.T. Barnum, who is, supposedly like one of the, if anyone knows anything about marketing or history, he was the premier 19th century showman, and he was known as able to generate all kinds of curiosity and, promotion. He was a king of self-promotion. But back when he first started, he still was a assistant to the owner of the circus, who was Aaron Turner. And supposedly in 1836, P.T. Barnum was walking through town wearing a new black suit, and he all of a sudden had like all these people following him, and he was like, "What the hell? Why are these people following me?" And eventually, someone in the crowd yelled, "Hey, that's Reverend Ephraim K. Avery," who was some guy that got away with murder, but everyone believed he was still guilty. And so the mob actually started to lynch him, and they ripped off his suit and started to attack him. And he goes, "No, follow me to the circus. I promise you, I work at the circus." So when he went to the circus, Old Man Turner was sitting there, and he had orchestrated the whole thing in order to attract the crowd to the circus. And that's from then on, Barnum picked up that technique and used it to make it, the most popular circus in the world.
Yeah, that wasn't very nice, was it?
No.
Almost getting lynched. So, thinking about this law, if we're supposed to attract attention to ourselves, I mean, P.T. Barnum's boss, Turner, was attracting attention to the circus. Not necessarily at himself, but he knew how to use that law and get the attention. And I think it also said too that, because of that little game that he was playing, that P.T. Barnum did not like whatsoever. They both benefited from it, and the circus was packed.
And actually, Barnum, from then he started doing those little tricks. He learned a very good skill, and you still see it today. But one of the tricks he did was he put free music for the millions and hung it on a banner in New York. And at the time, I guess he was working for a museum, and he was trying to drive traffic to the museum. But what he did is he had all these people come out, musicians come out on the balcony, and so people gathered around to hear the music. But the guys were so awful on purpose that people couldn't stand it, so they retreated by going inside, buying a ticket, and going inside the museum, which was the intended purpose all along.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely more art than science. And I think when you have a mentor like P.T. Barnum, you get shown the ropes, and you learn, you evolve your art.
Well, he also, the other thing, and I remember watching a show about this, but he bought a carcass of a monkey and a fish or something like that, and it was supposed to be a mermaid, and he would put it on tour as being like the first mermaid, right? Like a live proof that mermaids exist. So people came in, and it started the whole sideshow oddity thing. But this is still in use today, which is almost I saw it on Animal Planet, I think, where they had this whole show about mermaids, right? And it was despicable. They were actually trying to make people believe that mermaids exist. So they're showing all these scary footage underwater, of scientists down in, in research vessels, and they show all of a sudden something flash up against the screen, and they do a still image, and you see a man with like a tail, with a fish tail, and they're like, oh, there's mer people, and they're like, they come up with this whole thing that there's, evolution went on two paths. The people that walked and were apes, and the other ones that stayed in the ocean, and that they started trying to show all these different things that supported it. So they knew people were going to be curious, and so people would look up on the website and see what was going on. Well, what do they do when you went to their website? Because I was trying to show to my kids, I go, this is BS. This is nonsense. It's irresponsible of Animal Planet. I'm surprised they're even running this. Well, when you went to their website, there was a big FBI warning saying that this site has been closed down for leaking confidential information and blah 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 blah, and they might even had an email capture there. I'm not even sure, but it was a hoax. But it was a hoax reported, done by Animal Planet, which is owned by Discovery. So it was crazy.
I mean, it really happens all the time, and it's been happening throughout history. Getting attention. I was thinking with the mermaid, I was thinking about sea monkeys and how they were portrayed. You have this cute little family of sea monkeys with a little castle, and the guy's got a trident. And you get it.
It was on the back of every comic book.
Yeah, it was on the back of every comic book, and it was nothing like that. Nothing like that.
You ordered them though, right?
I ordered them quite recently for my kids.
Oh, really? I ordered them when I was a kid. I remember waiting, anticipating, and I got the little envelopes, and I dropped them in the water, and I thought I was going to see these little creatures dancing around, and swimming. I thought it was going to be like the coolest thing, and it was brine shrimp. And all that happened is one of the brine shrimp ate all the other ones, so I had one little fat brine shrimp swimming around, and it was disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a company is still in existence. You can still get them.
Yeah, I know.
It is cool. I was thinking about A Christmas Story, the movie A Christmas Story, which is a classic, I guess, by now. I remember the little kid was listening to the radio about the Orphan Annie radio hour. And he sent off, collected all these box tops, or collected something for his secret decoder ring, and then he had to listen to the radio show to get the code, and he's locked himself in the bathroom and he's decoding it, and the message is drink more Ovaltine. It's just an age. It's an age-old trick.
We're so susceptible to that. I remember when I was a kid, working in radio, I still amazed of the power of Y100. I think it's the only station that's still on the air down in South Florida that was around when we were kids. And I remember answering the telephone. I listened to Y100 because I had heard on the radio if you answer your phone like that, you can win money. And I remember my mom would be like, why are you doing that? And people would be confused. They didn't know who they were calling because I was answering. I listened to Y100, and it was just confusion abounded. But it was, a kid listening to the radio thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to win some money by answering the phone this way.
Yeah. In the book, in this chapter, it says, we secretly crave enigmas, people, or things that cannot be instantly interpreted, seized, or consumed. And, all of this, I think, is a great example of that. Remember the commercials for toys when you were kids? For you, I think the G.I. Joe commercials probably, come to the top of the list there. But those action figures would do everything and anything, and it was just like so cool. And you watch that commercial and your imagination would just run wild. And you get the toy and you're like, it doesn't do that. Or
Yeah.
like it's like something's supposed to pop, like shoot out, or like a gun or something like that, and it would just go ping.
What comes to mind, and it's still a very popular toy, is the Slinky. They always had those things climbing down the stairs and looking so cool. I could never make my Slinky go down the stairs. It never did that. All it did was get bent out of shape, and it was useless after that.
Yeah, it's and it's not a bait and switch. They're not trying to really con you. They're just presenting it in the most optimistic light, and that's a part of selling things. I tell my kids all the time when they see something on the TV and they're like, "Oh, that's so cool! It's only 3 installments of 1999." I'm like, they're trying to sell you something. Of course, they want it to look cool. They want your money. That's what commercials are for. They're for getting your money.
I wish I had this piece of mail in front of me. Oh, I have my phone. I took a picture of it, and I'm gonna read it to you, right? Because it's direct mail is so powerful. But this one was from the publisher's clearinghouse and for the sweepstakes, and it was to my mom. And I was like, this is just too good to be true. The stuff that I was giving my kids a lesson, and hold on, I'll scroll through my phone so I can actually give an intelligent report on it. Oh God, I hope it's still here. Maybe it's not. Damn it.
It's self-destructed.
Oh, I didn't take it with my phone. I took it with my camera. Okay, well, I'll give you what it had on it.
We can put that out on our site.
Yeah, I'll put a picture of it on our site and then on in our social media on our fan page, which is Swift Kicking Ass, on Facebook. So what it had like a handwritten font, like someone wrote on here, final notice, you have been selected to be on the list of the final winners, right? Not saying you're a final winner, but you're on the list. And then it had all these calls to action on the outside. There was like 4 or 5 of them on the thing to try to get you to open it up. It was like, final notice, if you don't open this by, September 15th, you are going to be bumped off the list and not qualify for $100,000. And then on the back it had this other thing, final notice, and it just kept on repeating it, and it had this big gold sticker on it saying you are on the list. Make sure this is a time sensitive material. It had another thing that looked official, like it was like a perforated document, like you got like something from FedEx. Like, open this now. And just looking at it made you anxious. Like, God, I got to open this. It tells me to. It was such a great piece of work. I wish I had a picture with me so I could go further into detail.
Now that's courting attention at all cost, is it not?
Yeah.
I mean,
great direct response.
It does also amaze me how so many people can be fooled by that. In fact, a lot of email scammers nowadays are very good at imitating, making letters look like they've come from the FBI, and they take advantage of a lot of people, unfortunately. Whereas you and I know we look at things with a very critical eye, and we're cynical. We're saying no, no way is that possible. If it's too good to be true, it's not true, and we understand that. But a lot of people are very gullible out there, and a lot of people get taken advantage of. So I think that's a great reason to understand this law, is that people are out there, people in groups are out there courting attention at any cost. They want to get your attention so they can get something out of you.
Let me give you an example. I live in South Florida. So South Florida, we use something called a Sun Pass, which it's for toll. I'm sure other areas have something similar, but basically they want everyone to sign up for the Sun Pass. So when you're on a toll road, you don't have to stop and pay cash. It just it uses a little RF transponder, and it keeps track of your tolls. Well, if you run through a toll and you don't have a Sun Pass, they take a picture of your license plate and they mail it to you, and at the end of the month, they give you your tolls and you got to pay it. You know, you got to pay it to the county or the state or whatever it is that's, you know, owns that road. And so there's this company, they created a company called like Toll Enforcement Collection Agency LLC, right? And they made it look exactly like the same document you would receive from the official SunPass people. And they say you have been put in collections and you owe a balance of $50 to clear this up, so we take no further action, and so your license is not suspended. So it was a complete scam. It had some P.O. box, and people would mail $50 in thinking that it was official, and they would walk away with the dough.
Yeah, it's a shame that people do that and people get away with that. But that's the world that we live in.
Yes.
You know, I was as I was looking through the book, I read this passage and I thought it was interesting. It says, if you find yourself trapped, cornered, or on the defensive, you know, after you have courted attention, you know, try this. And it was, do something that cannot be easily explained or interpreted. You know, catch them off guard, and it can be something very simple but unsettling. You know, when I know that I've gone too far in courting attention and there's too much attention on me, I've recognized that a simple smile, is the most disarming thing in the world. And sometimes I smile and I add a nod, especially talking with my wife. My wife does the same to me. You know, I think something like that can, you know, it makes people, it adds mystery, just like in the second part. It adds mystery and can be misinterpreted. So you don't have to say anything about it. Just smile, but do something unpredictable, and hopefully you can kind of make them go off balance and give you the opening that you're looking for. I am sounding more evil as I do this. This is kind of funny.
And the book does talk about Mata Hari, who was the famous. She was a belly dancer, right? That was her claim to fame.
Yeah, I remember my dad talking about her.
I think I remember seeing, like, you know, old film footage or maybe it was recreations of her, you know, belly dances or something like that, but with the veils, and, you know, she was like a big deal back then. I think it was in France or Italy or one of the European nations. But it turned out that, you know, she would make everyone believe that she was from somewhere else, and everyone would try to guess, you know, is she from India? Is she from, you know, the Far East? You know, she's real mysterious. It turned out she was like from Norway or something. She was really just another European, but she just disguised herself and, you know, had learned a few moves that were, you know, unique and different from the traditional dance of that era. And she created this whole air of mystery around her until I think people finally realized that she wasn't who she said she was, and they even accused her of being a foreign spy for the Nazis or something.
Wasn't she a foreign spy? Didn't that how it?
I don't think she was.
We'll have to go.
Let's see. Mata Hari went too far in her fabrications, although the accusation that she was a spy was false. At the time, it was a reasonable presumption because all of her lies made her seem suspicious and nefarious. So that's actually that was in the reversal of the law, which says in the beginning, at your rise to the top, you must attract attention at all costs, but the higher you rise, you must be constantly adapt. Never wear the public out with the same tactic. An air of mystery works wonders for those who need to develop an aura of power and get themselves noticed, but it must seem measured and under control. So they're saying that it can backfire on you, that you have to be careful. So you got to recognize it when it goes too far and put it back.
You know, it's really kind of funny.
That would be the
reversal of the law.
You know, what's so funny is I know that I used this technique to win my wife. when I first met her, when I first met my wife,
You did belly dancing?
uh, that's another time. That's another day. No, I was very mysterious. I tried to change my approach with women, and instead of talking their heads off, I stayed very cool,
Aloof.
calm, and collected, and aloof. Yes, was very aloof, and that added mystery, and it won. I won because we've been married 14 years now.
That must have been after you read that book, Nice Guys Don't Get Laid. Did you remember that? That was popular. I think it was back in the 90s, where it was these guys had come up with a whole. It was kind of like a cartoon, tongue-in-cheek thing, but it was very true. It showed like how the girl sees the bad boy and wants to change him and turn him into a prince, and how it shows like in a cartoon of another guy, like the nice guy, and she's stepping on him like the welcome mat as she leans over and is kissing the guy in the leather jacket. It's funny.
Did I ever give that back to you?
It's in a sense it's true though. I remember talking to my mom once, and my mom was talking about, yeah, women don't like guys that are too nice. I had a boyfriend, he just was too nice, something about him, and I was like, Mom, I don't want to know that. I see you as, Mother Nature, and everything's nice and holy and beautiful, not that you like bad boys.
But she likes Metallica and thinks that marijuana should be legalized.
It's true.
How well do you know your mom? She's still a mystery. I did take a
picture with my phone the other day of a billboard that's running down here, and it's they're doing seminars now for business opportunities for if and when marijuana gets legalized in the state of Florida. Hilarious, huh? And I know that our listeners can't see it, but if you're on the Hangout, you see that, John?
Very.
Read it. You can't read it, huh?
Not all that great.
Yeah. Well, basically, it says medical marijuana business seminars, 9/28 in Miami, 11/1 in Fort Lauderdale, and they give you marijuanabusinessflorida.com. So if anyone wants to check out marijuanabusinessfl.com. I'm not promoting that. I have nothing to do with it. I don't endorse it, but I thought it was amusing.
I thought you were going to hold that for the smoke screen chapter. Anyhow, lots of people out there trying to get your money. Knowing their tactics can help you keep your money.
And I'm sure those guys, if you go to that website, I'm sure they're probably going to scam you. So, and I could be wrong, but it's just a hunch.
Anyhow, I think that covers all the notes I had on this chapter. And the next chapter is get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. So,
until next time.
This is John Curran.
This is Tom Stewart. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to A Swift Kick in the Ass podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's content, and we ask you to please leave us a review in iTunes. Also, head over to aswiftkickintheass.com to get a free copy of the Simple Spelling Tool.